Hey there everybody, hope you're doing well. So for this video, I wanted to go over the non-resident gift tax that could apply to non-residents when they make transfers of certain types of U.S. property that are considered gifts for U.S. tax purposes. So this reporting is done on a Form 709NA. It's basically the sister version of the Form 709, which is filed by U.S. persons when they make taxable gifts during the year. So we're going to look at a 709NA for a pretty straightforward fact pattern, and that's going to cover the 2025 tax year. Now, really, my aim here is just to help kind of raise some awareness on this issue. I think a lot of individuals are kind of unknowingly making transfers that subject them to this tax. And there are a lot of planning things that you can do to make sure that you, one, don't have to do these kind of filings, but also two, you're not necessarily paying tax when it could have easily been avoided. So we'll look at the 709NA in its entirety. We'll go through the fact pattern. I've also got the form instructions for the 2025 tax year, so we'll have a look at these and the tax tables within. And then I've got one slide here covering some background information on this form and non-resident gift taxes generally. So again, this 709NA is a non-resident version of the U.S. person Form 709 gift tax return. So this generally must be filed when you have non-resident individuals that make taxable transfers during the year. So non-residents are not residents, not a citizen, so NRNC for short. And when they make gifts of certain types of U.S. property that exceed the annual exclusion, they might have a reporting obligation and very likely are going to owe some U.S. gift taxes. Now, the gift tax exclusion for 2025 is $19,000 per donor per recipient. It was $18K last year, it's $17 in 2023. And the gift tax exclusion, this looks familiar to U.S. persons, right, because we get the same exclusion amount. Now, what's unique about the non-resident one, and we'll see in this example, non-residents don't get that giant unified credit that U.S. persons get. So if you've watched some of my 709 video tutorials previously, you'll notice that in a lot of cases, they're having to calculate a tax owed on the taxable gift, but they have a sufficient amount of unified credit, which offsets the tax, where they don't actually have to write a check in that current year. Non-residents don't get that unified credit, right? So it's not a very good thing to be a non-resident and making taxable transfers during the year because you're likely going to owe some tax. Now, the fact pattern we're working with here, we have John Smith. Let's say he's a citizen and resident in Bermuda, and he has one son, Adam, who is also not a citizen of the U.S., but he's living and working in Miami temporarily under a visa, right? He moved there for a job, so he's under an H-1B. And John himself has never been a U.S. tax resident. He's not a dual citizen, so he's a non-resident, non-citizen of the U.S. Now, John, during this year, 2025, decided to gift his son $20,000 during the year. Let's say his son was getting short on some cash and he wanted to transfer him some money. Totally, understandable. And because Adam lives in the U.S., John thought, well, the easiest way to get him the money is just transfer money from my own U.S. bank account, right? John has a U.S. bank account. His son has a U.S. bank account, so it's just going to transfer it that way. A lot easier than doing a foreign bank to domestic wire transfer or some other kind of transfer method. So he just moved the money across that way and thought nothing of it. Well, the problem is he's unknowingly, created a taxable gift in the U.S. and has to report it and pay some taxes on the gift. Now, what transfers are subject to this issue? So it depends on the type of asset. So I've got a short list here of some of the common ones. It's not a comprehensive list, but these are the big ticket items that I always see people mistakenly kind of mixing up. So U.S. real property, for example, is always a big one. So this is U.S. situs real estate. So it's real estate that's physically, in the United States. So when you have U.S. real property and you transfer that to somebody, it is subject to the non-resident gift tax. U.S. real property is also a U.S. situs asset for the estate tax in the U.S. So that's the 706NA. That's filed by non-residents that have estates greater than $60,000 in the United States. Cash deposits in a U.S. bank. So this is where, he may have mixed up a bit. Where cash deposits in U.S. banks, believe it or not, are not actually subject to the U.S. estate tax, so it doesn't count as a U.S. situs asset. But if you're alive and you transfer money from a U.S. bank account, it is going to be subject to the gift tax. So it seems a bit kind of contradictory or counterintuitive there, but those are the rules, and that's what we have to apply. U.S. corporate stocks is another one. So this is intangible property, right? You hold stock in a corporation, whether it's publicly traded or privately or held. U.S. corporate stocks are U.S. situs assets for estate tax purposes, so they're included in your taxable estate. But if you as the shareholder are alive and you transfer that property to somebody else as an intangible asset, it's not subject to the gift tax. So you're better off transferring stocks to somebody, not having to pay the gift tax versus transferring cash deposits in a U.S. bank account. All right, so let's have a look at the fact pattern here. Or sorry, the actual form itself. So we've got the 709A here. We've got the name of the donor. So John Smith, who's a Bermuda resident. He's a Bermuda citizen. He was born there. His date of birth. Item 3, we have the U.S. tax ID number, if you have any. So if you have a Social Security number, you can enter that there. If you have an ITIN, you can enter that there. If you don't have a tax ID number, that's okay. You can still file this form, and the IRS will assign you an IRS number, effectively. So it's kind of a identification number in lieu of a SSN or an ITIN. Now we got his address here, right? His address in Hamilton City, Bermuda. Telephone number, email address, and in boxes 21 through 23, he's indicated no, that he's not filing the regular Form 709 for the year, right? He's doing a 709 NA. Have you, the donor, previously filed any 709 NAs for any other year? And the answer for him is no, right? This is the very first one he's doing. He just did it. Didn't think anything about it, and it wasn't until a later date where his tax advisor told him, hey, you've got to file this. You've got a taxable gift here. Now, in part 2, the tax computation, so we do this in effect last. We've got to report the gift, compute the taxable component and the amount of tax, and then we'll come back to this. So if I go down to Schedule A here, we have the computation of taxable gifts. So this is where we report gifts that are only subject to the gift tax. If you have gifts that are subject to the gift tax and GST, they're reported in another schedule. But in our case here, it's only the gift tax because this is a direct gift. It's not a gift to a trust. And Adam is not a skip person, right? So he's his son. So it's within the 2-descendant window, and it's within the age gap too, right? If we were talking about unrelated persons. So we've got Adam's information here listed in column B. So we've got Adam Smith, his address there in Miami. His relationship to the donor, he's the donor's son, and this was a cash gift, a cash transfer, and so the donor's adjusted basis is the $20,000 he transferred him, right? Cash is the most easiest asset to value because cash is cash, right? We just know what it is because that's the balance. So $20,000 in cash was transferred. The transfer was made December 1st, 2025, and then the fair value of that cash is the same as the donor's basis, right? $20,000. All right, so once that information is entered, we have the total at the bottom here. It's $20,000 US in cash was transferred, and then we move on to Schedule A to compute the taxable gift component. So the total value of the gifts by the donor from above there was the $20,000. And you can see there that we have the $19,000 annual exclusion that's available per donee, right? So he gets the $19,000 exclusion. And again, the reason why we're having to do this is because the amount he transferred him exceeded the annual exclusion for the year. So we've got the $19,000, we subtract that from the $20K, and the total included amount of gifts is the difference there of $1,000. Now he doesn't have any deductions here. Right, this isn't a transfer to a spouse or a charity, so there's no marital deduction or charitable deduction. There's no GST component here for line item 10. So the taxable gifts is simply going to be this $1,000 figure. All right, and in Schedule B, just for completeness here, we see gifts from prior periods. This is the first gift that John has made that's taxable. And so Schedule B, gifts from prior periods, is blank for us. We're not having to report all the amounts that were filed on previously submitted 709s, so we don't have any information to enter here. So we've got the $1,000 taxable gift amount, And it asks us next to enter into part 2, tax computation line 1. That's page 1 of the 709. So if I jump back up to the page 1 of the 709, we could see here in part 2, we have the amount from Schedule A, part 4, line 11 of $1,000. Schedule B are those prior period taxable gifts. We don't have any of those, so that line item is 0. So total taxable gifts for the year is $1,000. Now we have to compute the amount of tax owed on those gifts. So if we go to the form instructions here and scroll down to the bottom, and of course the form instructions is very helpful with some definitions and how to complete the return. So I highly recommend reading through these before you consider even trying to tackle this. But if we scroll all the way down to the tax table here, here's the table for computing the gift tax, and this is for the 2025 year, again, as a reminder. So the amount of taxable gift that we have is only $1,000. So the line item we're going to be working with is the first one, right? The taxable amount, it's greater than 0, but it's less than 10,000, right? It's not over 10 grand. So the way we calculate the tax is take 18% of the excess over 0 plus the 0 figure here. All right, so if I pull up our calculator here, I mean, we could do this in our head, but why not? So we have $1,000, right? That's the taxable gift that exceeds 0 up here. And we're going to take 18% of that, and then we'll add, there's nothing to add in the column C computation. So $180 is the amount of tax owed on this taxable gift. So we've entered 180 there on line 4. The tax computed on line 2 for the prior period gifts, that's 0 because our prior period gifts is 0. And so we're left with a $180 balance. Now, line 7 and 8, if you do have credits that can be applied, credits for foreign gift taxes, you can enter those there. In this example, we're working with an individual who's a resident of a country that doesn't have a treaty with the U.S. The U.S. has certain gift and estate tax treaties. So if you're a resident there, your return is substantially more complicated because you might get exclusions and you might owe gift taxes in your country of residence, so you could get credits on the 709. But in our return, we're working with a pretty basic example. So we're left with $180 in balance of taxes owed, and that's the tax due on line 14. So that's what we actually have to pay. He actually has to pay $180 in U.S. gift tax on this $1,000 taxable transfer during 2025. Now, if you were to look at this in a side-by-side with a regular 709 that's been completed, you'll notice what's missing here is the unified credit. So I mentioned this at the start of the video, but non-residents don't get a unified credit. So if this was a first return for a U.S. person that had $180 in tax and they had their full unified credit available, they wouldn't actually have to pay any tax with this return because the $180 would be absorbed by that unified credit amount. Non-residents don't get this same kind of benefit. So this is why it's incredibly important that non-residents with any kind of U.S. assets have to be very careful when they make gifts to individuals, because they could inadvertently trigger this and not just trigger the filing requirement, but they actually owe some additional money, right? I see a lot of U.S. persons make gifts and they didn't know that this was an obligation to file a return. So we file the return, there's a tax computed, but they have plenty of credit, so they don't actually have to pay any tax, and they say, okay, well, I just won't do that again, but it's good to know I don't actually owe the IRS any additional money. You don't get the same leeway with non-residents, right? If you make a transfer of U.S. property that is a taxable property and you report it, you're very likely going to have to pay some gift taxes with your 709. All right, so that covers it for this video. Hope that was helpful. Pretty straightforward for this example, but I'm sure you can understand that in a lot of cases it gets substantially more complicated. But the teaching point here is if you have any kind of U.S. property and you're a non-resident, do not gift that property away unless you're certain that it's not going to trigger one of these filing obligations and some unnecessary gift tax, right? So what could John have done differently? Well, he could have told Adam, yeah, it's going to be easier for me to transfer the money from my U.S. account to yours, but it's going to create an issue here. So how about we lower the amount I transfer you to avoid the tax? Or I make a transfer from my non-US account, right? What if I transferred you money instead from my Bermuda Butterfield account into your account in Bermuda, and then you figure out how to get the money later, right? That was an option, right? That's an option that perhaps they didn't think of, but now they know better going forward. All right, so that covers it. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, very much appreciate you watching, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thank you.